Hi, DJ Tina here, host of HMTV Canada Easy. On the phone with me today is David Helleveson of the F5 Band. Hi David, having read your bio, I would call your resume a professor of music with so many great projects on the go. What caught my attention the most was the catchy song tracks from your F5, The Reckoning, and A Drug for All Seasons, and Like a Drug. These song tracks are addictive. Makes no wonder why F5's music is creating a buzz on all radio stations. I like the mean guitar riffs in F5 offers, the powerful vocals. Can you tell us about your recent album release, The Reckoning?
Yes, well thank you first of all. I've never been called a professor before, so I appreciate that. Yeah, the F5 record, the first one we released in 2005, that was A Drug for All Seasons. And then during the tour for that in 2006 into 2007, so we started writing the songs for The Reckoning. We finished the rest of the writing during 2007 and recorded it late last year. And just released in August here of 2008. So, I don't know, to me overall, I think that The Reckoning really shows the band really developing, and I think that that's a cool thing for a band. We didn't just shoot our wad with our first record. That wasn't the best we could do. That was the best we could do at that time, which I think was real. But as the band works together, we play more, we write more songs together, I see a really clear development with the band, and that's something that I'm personally really proud of.
Now, do you write all the F5's music, and are they based on the 3 years of your past that were hard times? What image did you think your music conveys?
No, I don't write all of them. I write a lot of them, but really F5 is a group collaboration on the writing. Our singer Dale Steele writes most of the lyrics, and most of those are, he went through a pretty tough period in his life for many years, and as of the last 3 or 4 years, has really gotten things back on a good track, and he's really in a good headspace. And I think for a lot of artists, sometimes dark periods of their lives can become a really good catalyst for writing some strong material. And I think on The Reckoning, in fact, I asked him, I said, man, who did you write these lyrics about? Some of them sound pretty harsh and pretty hateful. And he said, oh yeah, those are about me. And so it's, which is kind of cool, because you can tell, Dale's really being very honest and opening his life book up and laying out his life story for the listener.
And did you have any periods that you had hard times in your life that you wrote about for any of the song tracks?
Probably the main thing that I wrote about really wasn't so much on this record. Some things on the first record, on the Drug for All Seasons, I would say probably, things like Dying on the Vine, which was really about when you're ripe, and whatever that is in your life, I think you kind of go through these different seasons in your life. And at certain times, you're ready for new experiences, and you're ready to do things. And if you don't jump out and move past maybe the hesitation, fear, second guessing, and things like that, if you don't move through that, then you're going to essentially die on the vine when you should have been ripe and been picked and really have been able to be fruitful in your life.
So in other words, why wait for something when you know you're onto a good thing and just grab it? That's the point.
Exactly. And I think, at that time when I called Dale up, I'll never forget where I was at, actually. I was driving in my car, and I called him up, and I told him about that lyric idea and that song title. And I think what we were, for both of us, it was kind of a poignant time because, I was transitioning out of my former band. That group was reforming, yet I was not going to be part of it because, we couldn't seem to come to any agreements on how to make that work. And so instead of sitting around crying about spilled milk or being, scornful or holding resentment, I chose to just stay the course because F5 was already up and running. We were in the studio working on a record and writing songs. And, for me, it was really kind of, I don't know, I feel like I was blessed with a lot of courage at that point in time to really be able to make that transition, because I know a lot of guys don't transition well out of big groups, especially groups they've been with, since the very beginning, like I had. And so I think, for me, and then even for Dale, who was really looking for some faith in his life, to know that F5 was going to be something that I wasn't going to, go run off and do something else, that I was going to stay the course with it. I think that was really, that song, I think probably has a very deep personal meaning to both me and Dale at that point in our lives, and that would have been really back in 2004, as F5 was really coming to fruition to make our first record.
Mm-hmm. It's a very strong song. It creates like a lot of imagery. Are you going to be making a video from that song, or have you made one?
Not that one. We're not. We off the first record we did a video for the track Dissonance, which became the first single off of that record. Now moving on to the new record, onto The Reckoning. We have done a video for the first single, which was The Reckoning, the title track, and now we have some other videos that we're doing. We did a B-side of a fight song, which is Rob Halford's band he did right after Judas Priest, a song called Nailed to the Gun. So we're actually working on a video for that, and that's just going to be an online song only. You can only purchase it through iTunes until it becomes available on import overseas. And then as well as that, we're also doing another thing that we're going to be doing on YouTube called Live with F5. That is us playing some of our songs in a soundstage setting, actually playing them live, so not with an audience or anything, kind of inviting the audience into our domain, into our realm to hang with us on YouTube while we play the tracks.
I can't wait to see that. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool. The online stuff is such a huge part of how we operate now as artists. So I think that, I don't know, I like doing those things. I think using these different ways to bring your music to the people and help invite people into where you're at is important.
Well, sometimes when you're touring, like all the fans can't make it to the shows, and sometimes you can't get to tour. So usually, when you're a really popular band, fans just eat that up. They love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you the engineer that records, mix, and masters all F5's music production?
No, we actually have Ryan Green, who's a notable producer, who's worked with a lot of groups like Logwagon, NoFX. He even did some demos for me back in 1991 out in L.A. So I've known him for a lot of years. He actually lives right out here, right across the street from me, ironically. All these years later, we hook up, and he's my neighbor. But he has a studio here in Scottsdale, Arizona called Crush Recording, and that's where we've done the last two F5 records.
Does F5 have a particular meaning?
Our former drummer, Dave Small, came up with it after we were just watching the movie Twister. He came into rehearsal and he goes, "Man, I was just watching Twister last night, and they were talking about complete destruction, the F5, the biggest, baddest, most deadly tornado, and they're calling it the finger of God," and he's just going off because we were all excited. We've been writing for about a month, and we realized we needed to get a band name, and the name stuck. We just kept on to it, and then once our other guitar player, John Davis, joined the group a couple months later, and we were actually officially a 5-piece band, it totally made sense, so we kept it.
Is your name trademarked?
Actually, F5 is a mark that is an untrademarkable name, if you can believe that. So, and I know there's a few other little F5s out there from around the world, but that's why I think it works good as a band name. We don't have to fight over it either.
Hey, that's awesome. Can't beat that. With your current lineup, Dave Steele vocals, Steve Connolly lead guitar, yourself, Dave Appleson bass, John Davis guitar, and Jimmy DeGracio drums. Have you been tearing up the stages and putting on killer shows and playing live gigs and touring in 2008?
We have done a few shows. Initially, we did some shows back in the early summer just because we wanted to warm the band up as the record was getting ready to come out. And now we're actually in discussions about some shows coming up here, maybe toward the end of the year, and then even some stuff in the new year.
Sounds good. What about in 2009? You got some stuff coming up? Can you?
Yep, exactly. That's what we're looking at. Probably some stuff coming up here in the spring for 2009 as well.
Any hints?
Nope. We'll have them posted here shortly. Everybody, all the information on our band, you can, if you're online, you can go to either f5theband.com or on MySpace, you can go to F5thebandaz, and we'll have tour dates and all the stuff as it happens. We put it up there immediately so all of our fans know what we're up to.
Okay, so no way of leaking that out ahead of time, eh?
Nope.
I tried. Oh well. Can you tell us about your Epheson music production company? What type of services do you offer?
That's really the first thing I started back in 2002, and as I went around the country and produced groups, we worked on I had some labels hire me in to do some writing. Did some producing, helped some bands get some demo deals and get some things going on that front. That's really what that is. I think a lot of people thought that I was going to start a record company, which I have not done, nor do I really want to, at least at this point. That is something that possibly could happen, some sort of partnership with a label in the future, but to be honest with you, it's very time-consuming, and right now I'm really enjoying being creative and being an artist again.
Okay. Are you endorsed with any music companies, stores, or professional music schools?
Not any schools. I did some instructional DVDs for a company called Rockhouse Method, and they have DVDs. In fact, if you go to rockhousemethod.com, they have a whole list of the DVDs available there. As far as musical equipment endorsements, I have quite a few of them actually, with everybody from PD, Diodario, Jim Dunlop, Peterson Tuners, and a whole slew of them. And those are products that I actually use, I really like, and therefore I give them my endorsement that I really like what they offer professionally.
Do you have any other music projects that you're currently working on with other bands like Iron Steel, Soulfly, Avian, or the Alien Black?
Actually, yeah, the Alien Black, we just did a new record that I believe I'm told is going to be out in 2009. And because the first record was not released outside of Europe, that record is actually going to be released here in America, and we put a few bonus tracks that we recorded that I think are going to be part of that. So I worked on that back in, I think it was June actually, so that record could be completed and be ready to be released, and that's going to be happening, I think, in 2009.
You have a book that you're busy making, or you've already put out. It's called Making Music Your Business, A Guide to a Young Musician.
Right.
Is that out currently, or?
It is, yep.
Okay.
That came out back in 1990, I think it was 96, I believe. 96 or 97 when that came out.
And we can buy it?
You can get that. You can either get that through my website at davidellison.com, or you can buy it online on Amazon. There's a few online portals that have it.
I was curious at this point, do you have a passion to become a music teacher or look into a career or opportunity? Has that ever presented itself to you in the past or in the present? You ever thought
I get
about it?
asked to teach all the time and do various things like that, but I don't, I can do okay with teaching, but I don't have a passion for it, quite honestly. There's some people who are very good teachers, they're very good at that. I'm more enthused musically about playing with other musicians in bands, on recordings, and then as well as creating my own artistic work.
Do you still actively write for the Bass Player magazine?
I don't. I do some stuff with them. In fact, this weekend coming up, they're having their annual convention called Bass Player Live out in Los Angeles, and I'm actually going out and moderating a panel with some other well-known bass players on it, and then also going to be part of the All-Star Jam on Saturday night at the Key Club in Hollywood.
So when did you stop writing for the magazine?
I wrote for them for about 2 years, and which is about right, actually, because they try to have a kind of a rotating guest artists that write for them. So I wrote for them about 2 years, right around the time my book was about ready to come out, I believe, is when I was writing for them. And it actually made sense, because once my book came out, most of the topics I was writing about were in my book, and I felt it really better, too, that, to not always be contributing to a column in a magazine that was sort of duplicating a lot of the topics that were in my book.
Before we wrap up our interview, international fans can buy your CDs and your books and your merchandise online through the internet at your main website at www.davideffelson.com?
Right, mm-hmm.
Okay, and any from your MySpace page?
Yeah, MySpace is David Ellison and the number 1, David Ellison 1.
Okay. Any last words?
Nope, that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the fans hanging with me, and so far everybody seems to be digging the new F5 record, The Reckoning, so I appreciate everybody's support. Look forward to seeing you on the road here at some point soon.
Okay, I'd like to give a shout out and give Joe a great big huge thank you from Rat Pack Records, and thank you, David, for allowing HMTV Canada E-Zine to interview you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.